Next on the College Rugby Wrap-Up, surprising results between the big guns west of the Mississippi and recent college players featuring in Major League Rugby. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pump. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's College Rugby Wrap-Up. Thank you for joining us. Matt McCarthy in New York City, Colby Marshall in New Jersey, Josh Rescio out in Los Angeles, I believe, or San Francisco, one of those California destinations, and of course, our mountain man, Zach Lanning, up in Maine. Zach, have you gone ice fishing this morning yet? Or what have you gotten for sustenance on the table?
Actually, ice fishing derby was this past weekend, Matt, Saturday. I was out all day, didn't catch anything, but I baited a hook for the first time, and pretty good experience. All
right, and speaking of baiting the hooks, we got Josh Rescio is going to reel us in with some Western College rugby action in the top tier. What do you got for us, Josh?
Well, before we get into the two big games that were for the top six and the rankings this week, let's kind of get a rundown of some of the other games as teams are still struggling to kind of come out of the pandemic and get games that are on the schedule and actually play them. So
what a novel idea.
I would hope they'd want to play those games, but I think hopefully those big games that we had on the schedule are going to be coming soon. So of the games that were played, Central Washington played two games. They didn't allow a try for the weekend, so kudos to them. Central Washington took on Trinity Western and beat them 24-0 in their first game of the week, and then went on to beat Washington 88-0.
88-0.
88-0. I know we mentioned that California games have been the blowouts, but I guess up in Washington they're having the same problem at the moment. So,
what do you say to your team after the 88 whitewashing? When you're all right, guys, you know what our kick chase has to be better.
You see you at practice. I mean, there's not much to say.
See you at practice. Yes.
After the debacle that we had up in Washington, Grand Canyon tried to play some competitive rugby, and after their tie versus Arizona, was able to take on UC Davis and beat them 43-20. And then lastly, before we get into the big games of the week, St. Mary's also played two games. The first game, 71-18 over Santa Clara. Santa Clara does not seem to be getting a break this year. They're getting some tough games at the start of their schedule. Hopefully later on in the season, we're going to be able to see them play some teams that are probably a little bit closer to them in the rankings. But as of right now, they are getting probably the toughest stretch of any team out here in the spring schedule.
So, hey, maybe it'll make them stronger in the second half of their schedule. Maybe it's a good thing that they're getting walloped.
I don't think it's ever a good thing, but hopefully we see some more competitive games out of them coming up.
All right, maybe that crafty veteran Paul Keeler as the coach could get them turned around and on the right path. What else you got?
Well, let's talk about the two big games of the week. So, the top six in the D1A rankings have been pretty solid over the years. And it's always amazing when we get to see any of those two teams play against each other, a lot of times because those two teams are, from across the country. Luckily, BYU and St. Mary's, we get to have two games, a home game for each team this year. And in the first game, we saw St. Mary's taking the win 39-28. And I struggle to, really say that, St. Mary's looked like the better team throughout. BYU hasn't played since October. And for a team that hasn't played since October, who was just dominating in their fall season, to come into this St. Mary's game and play competitive rugby with that kind of scoreline, I tip my hat to BYU. I think they're better than the number 6 team in the country. And I think when they play again, they're going to go play at BYU on March 12th. I think you could even see a flip scoreline. You can even see BYU winning this game.
I do know, though, that you have to BYO at BYU.
Nice job.
Thought this was a college show. College kids don't drink.
Bring your own food, guys. Everybody, what? Come on. All right, keep going.
Outside of BYU and St. Mary's, Lindenwood, which I'm just going to throw it out here. Last week's show, I did predict this. Lindenwood did beat Life 29-16. Evan Williams accounted for 17 of the 29 points for Lindenwood. And Lindenwood just, I think, you keep losing to Life. You have Life who's just been kind of a dominating force over the past couple of years. That's got to just, sit with Lindenwood, who's done an amazing job recruiting, has been playing really solid rugby, has been winning sevens championships. To, get those 15s wins over Life, to get it early in the season has to mean a lot to them. And they didn't just win, they looked like the smarter team throughout the entire game. They were capitalizing on all of Life's mistakes. Life kept getting little penalties here and there, and Lindenwood just played a smart game throughout, very clean rugby, and came out of there with the win.
All right, so we've got some intrigue developing with these teams that are pushing the big guys, right, a little bit.
To not call Lindenwood a big guy is really tough. Lindenwood's still the number 5 team in the country, but Life definitely is not the number 2 team in the country. So if you look at the rankings right now, we maybe have a little bit of bias up there near the top, but I can probably see Lindenwood and Life maybe doing a swap, but it's hard to put Lindenwood above Cal, who, currently while Cal's playing is dominating teams, 60 plus points. So this week in the rankings, I really hope that the vote, starts to really gear towards some of these like actual concrete games that we've been able to see in the spring season to really justify where teams are in the rankings. I think St. Mary's is a clear number 1 right now. And until someone is able to beat them, they should be number 1.
What about Cal?
Well, Cal's got to play bigger games, right? St. Mary's is playing big games early in the season. And until Cal gets a big game, we're going to see them play St. Mary's. I don't think you can put them above them. I mean, this BYU game, if you think about it, BYU comes out of the fall season as probably the most dominant team outside of Army. So for St. Mary's to beat them, even though BYU hasn't played, they deserve to be the number 1 team.
Hey, we got to hold it there for a second and take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Looking for your next vehicle? With Sheehy's Easy Search, choose from over 3,000 new and used vehicles. Shop, trade, or buy online or in store. We make it easy with our award-winning service.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Been blind since I was 4. And I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste. And my beer's Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
And we are back, and guys, it's that time of the week for our Sheehy Auto Stores Pop Quiz with you college graduates, and this one is going to be a toughie. I just got back from Indiana, and I want you to tell me how many states border Indiana. Zach?
I want to say 3.
Josh?
4.
And Colby?
I'm going with 4 because Josh sounded confident.
This is a tricky one on this week's Sheehy Auto Stores Pop Quiz because we have 2 correct answers, but our judges say that it's going to be Josh that gets the win because he was the first one and Colby was cheating. On that note, let's get right to Colby into Major League Rugby and college players in the game. So let's go to that segment now, Colby. Walk us through what you got because I see that Iona shirt on, and I know that can only mean one thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch a lot of the matches over the weekend, but I did catch Rugby United New York in action against the Houston Sabres.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because they're Rugby New York now. Okay? That's all right. We're going to keep going because that's a common mistake right now, but we're going to help educate. That's what we do in the college rugby wrap-up. We help educate. So continue.
Yeah, no surprise. The Gale got the starting nod. Connor Buckley was the starting scrum half for New York against Houston. And I have to say, I was very impressed with his play. He played a flawless, I think, first 15 to 20 minutes or forever, however long he was in before, his head injury, in which case Andy Ellis came in to relieve
that
Buckley
guy.
at that time, which isn't a bad replacement. But I have to say, Connor Buckley, his passing, he was quick at the breakdown, looked very calm, cool, and collected. And we saw him a lot in action last year off the bench for New York. And, even in those appearances, he was always cool, calm, and collected. Also, shout out to John Powers, who made the first 23 for New York, coming over from Utah in the offseason. Excited to see those two on the field at some point this year.
Well, the whole point of these guys coming in and getting groomed and getting blooded is so that they have the right experience under their belt rather than getting thrust right into the fire. You'd rather not have that. And what an advantage for a guy like Connor Buckley to have had a full year of the tutelage of Andy Ellis, the All Blacks scrum half, in front of him and at training every single day. So it's great to see him get this opportunity. Unfortunately, He got the head knock and had to come out earlier than anticipated. But he did get that was a tough place to play. Sam Windsor, who leads Major League Rugby in kicking and kicked for Houston and is now kicking for New York, didn't hit a kick, right? So,
and he has wind in his name.
Yes, Zach. Yes.
But I think you definitely hit the nail on the head with Connor Buckley. I think this was the plan all along with him when they signed him in 2020. He was going to be the homegrown scrum half that was going to eventually get the nod. With all the experience or all the knowledge that's been passed down to him from the likes of Andy Ellis and Mike Petrie. And so it's just finally nice seeing that come to fruition now. And, knowing Connor, I know he's ultra competitive. So sitting on the bench last year, it definitely wasn't fun and definitely wasn't something that he expected. Somebody that's very sure of his talents and skills, as he should be. So no surprise now that he's getting his shot, and he seems like he's their guy, so I'm excited for him.
What's your saying, Colby? Iona comes from what? Winning?
Iona contributes to winning.
So New York's going to win this year.
Iona contributes to winning.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We all are allowed our opinions here on the college rugby wrap-up, right? Zach, did you have any player that you were eyeballing?
Yeah, a couple players, guys. And just to bring it back to what Josh was talking about at the top, perhaps one of the reasons Lindenwood may not have been as high in the rankings is because of just the sheer number of players they lost to the MLR in the draft this past season. One of those players, Jonah Dietenberger, making his debut at lock for San Diego. And Matt, I know that San Diego had suffered a few injuries on that day. So they had a couple rookies come in, Jonah Dietenberger and also Dominic Iacovino coming into that game. But you also saw life player Chase Shore-Haskin make his debut for Nola Gold as well. But so a couple of those programs always, providing a lot of talent for the MLR, and you're starting to see some of those players make their debuts.
Yeah, it's good. It's a long season. There's going to be a lot of attrition. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for players to raise their hand, step up. Josh, anybody catch your eye?
Not catch eye, but I still struggle with with MLR, and I find it a sin that a Northern California person has to root for an LA team or a San Diego team right now. So I'm still.
Why do you have to? Why you don't have to? There are Green Bay Packer fans living in Miami.
Well, that's tragic for them. I mean, I guess they get to escape the weather, but California sports, we take our sports seriously. That's why we have like 3 or 4 teams for every.
No, you
single
don't.
sport.
That's why you keep losing teams. You don't take sport like LA. Come on, the biggest transient whore town on the planet. They had the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. But
they bought the Super Bowl.
They bought the Super Bowl. But
yeah.
How many times are the Rams going to move again? Who's kidding who here?
That's Southern California. That's why us in Northern California, we can't root for them. So I need my MLR team up north. You can go stick them in Reading. It doesn't have to be San Francisco. Just stick them anywhere above this imaginary line. Cal Poly can be the imaginary line for the state. Put a team above there. I'm all in.
All right. Okay. All right.
I hear SoCal's more cultured.
Some might say.
What does that mean?
We got a cat fight here on the CRWU. But this guy, you know what? You got to lighten up a little bit. Josh, and pick a team and root for them. Go for like Utah or something. Seattle.
I'll
Come
stick
on.
with Utah for now. Utah
All right.
Warriors can be Brandon Sparks has done a lot of awesome things over there, so I'll stick with him.
And you have that Michigan State connection going back with Brandon.
Yep.
I get it. I see what you're doing there. All right, but I got to salute Will Burke suiting up down in Atlanta, the University of Buffalo product. But getting back to what you were talking about, you mentioned Mike Petrie, Colby. He was in the booth with me calling the Dallas-San Diego game as the San Diego players were dropping like flies to the point where we didn't even realize it until it was way too late on the air live when you're not calling the right numbers. But that's a different story. The story, though, was Naposki, Eric Naposki on the field. When Petrie and I are watching him, the ball's kicked deep into the Jackals' end. Conrado Rura, the Pumas Sevens player, number 8, who's a beast, fields the ball, gets it to Naposki, who's now scrambling around like a chicken with his head cut off. And Petrie's about to say, I think he needs the exit strategy here. Kick, and then Naposki flies up the middle of the field, gets it back to Rura, who had the presence of mind to follow him. And Rura scores a dramatic try. Just an electric play from Naposki. Exciting to see why he was the number 1 pick.
I just wanted to point out that Naposki actually got it to Aaron Gray, who then got it out to the Rapua.
Right. I meant to say that Rura was the first one to touch the ball and the last one to touch the ball. You're right. You are absolutely correct, Colby. It still doesn't atone for you not getting the win in the She-He Auto Stores pop-up quiz or pop quiz. What else we got, guys? Is that it? I mean, we're out of time already because this flies by with you guys. Any final thoughts? Let's start with you, Zach.
No, just looking forward to some of these games starting to pop up again as the weather starts to turn a little bit. We start to see later February, March, some matches. So hopefully we'll have some more game action to talk about, as some of these bigger programs start their schedules.
Colby.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more Zach Lanning and Josh Rescio, do their things. Also really cool to see Connor Mooneyham make his season debut for the Austin Gilgronis. He had 2 tries in this week 2 matchup. So looking forward to watching the rest of the MLR and seeing some of the young guys make their impact.
And Josh, I just got to point out that he's talking about the Gaels, but you're talking, you got the Real Gaels in your neck of the woods, right?
We do have the Real Gaels, St. Mary's, quality Gaels, best Gaels of the state. But for me, kind of looking forward, I think we also have to start talking about sevens soon on this show. I know all those fall teams are going to start playing sevens. Penn State is actually going to be joining the Big Ten this year for their sevens tournaments. So I really look for Penn State to be the favorite. Ohio State's going to be focused on the playoffs, and I think Penn State could really come in and maybe dominate the Big Ten sevens this year. So first time since 2011, they're going to be back in it. So it'll be really cool to watch.
All right. Awesome stuff. And I just want to point out that we need a T-shirt with all the acronyms for college rugby across our front without any explanation. Just have people just walk into a bar or something with that on and see what happens. But on that note, fellas, great stuff as always. Thank you, Mr. Colby Marshall. Thank you, Mr. Zach Lanning. And thank you, Mr. Josh Rescio. And thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate it. Please subscribe to our newsletter. Please press that subscribe button on YouTube and tell your friends about us. And also check out our other segments on the Rugby Wrap-Up Network, if you will, including our MLR preview show and the Rugby Odds. And please, please, please sign up for our Rugby Wrap-Up American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.